The blue coffee mug trembled in Catherine Morgan's hand as she stared at the long blonde hair caught between her fingers. She had found it tucked into the passenger seat of Robert's car, shimmering like a silent accusation in the afternoon sunlight. This wasn't the first time she had noticed something out of place, but it was the first piece of evidence she couldn't rationalize away. Catherine set the mug down on the kitchen counter, her mind racing. 53 years of life experience had taught her to trust her instincts, and something had felt off about Robert's behavior for months now. The late nights at the office, the mysterious weekend work emergencies, the sudden attention to his appearance, all classic signs she had foolishly ignored. She had been married to Robert for 27 years. 27 years of building a life together, and now this single strand of blonde hair threatened to unravel everything. She twirled the hair between her fingers, studying its length and color. Catherine's own hair was dark, with subtle gray streaks she had begun to embrace. This hair was young, vibrant, the kind that belonged to a woman who still believed in happy endings. Catherine almost felt sorry for her, whoever she was. "I need proof," she whispered to herself, placing the hair in a small envelope and tucking it into her pocket. The house felt too quiet suddenly, too empty despite the comfortable furnishings and family photos that adorned the walls, photos of happier times, photos that now seemed like artifacts from another life. Catherine walked to the window, gazing out at the suburban street where their life had taken root. The neighborhood was peaceful, with manicured lawns and friendly neighbors who knew nothing about the storm brewing inside the Morgan household. She and Robert had always been the couple others admired, successful, stable, seemingly perfect. The thought of that facade crumbling made her stomach churn. Her phone buzzed on the counter. A text from Robert. "Working late again. Don't wait up." Catherine's jaw tightened as she read the message. How many times had she received this exact text over the past few months? How many times had she believed him? The familiar ache of disappointment settled in her chest, but this time it was accompanied by something else. Determination. Instead of responding with her usual, "Okay, love you," Catherine set the phone down and walked to their shared home office. Robert's laptop sat on the desk, password protected but not beyond her reach. After 27 years of marriage, she knew all his passwords, combinations of their anniversary date and their old house number. So predictable, so careless. Catherine's fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Did she really want to know? Could she handle what she might find? The blonde hair seemed to burn in her pocket, urging her forward. She typed in the password and held her breath as the screen came to life. His email opened automatically, and Catherine began to scroll. Nothing unusual at first. Work correspondence, promotions from online retailers, newsletters. Then she saw it, tucked between a meeting reminder and a credit card statement. An email with the subject line, "Can't wait for Friday." The sender's name made her heart sink. Amber Wilson. The message was brief but damning. "Your wife's at her mother-in-law's this weekend, right? Can't wait to have you all to myself for 2 whole days. The last time in your bed was amazing. Love, A." Catherine sat back, the air rushing from her lungs as if she'd been struck. Robert wasn't just having an affair. He was bringing this woman into their home, into their bed, whenever Catherine was away. The betrayal cut deeper than she could have imagined. She thought of all the weekends she had spent with Martha, Robert's mother, giving him space to work or time to relax. All those weekends, he had been with her, with Amber. Fighting the urge to scream, Catherine continued her search, finding more emails, text message backups, even photos. Nothing explicit, but intimate enough to confirm what she now knew to be true. Robert and Amber had been seeing each other for at least 6 months. 6 months of lies. 6 months of betrayal. She closed the laptop and returned to the kitchen, her mind eerily calm despite the chaos of emotions threatening to overwhelm her. This weekend, she was supposed to visit Martha again. Robert had been particularly insistent about it, claiming his mother was feeling lonely. Now she understood why. Catherine poured herself a glass of wine and sat at the kitchen table, weighing her options. She could confront Robert immediately, but what would that accomplish? A denial, followed by reluctant admission, tears, promises to change, the predictable script of the caught cheater. She could leave him, pack her bags, and walk away from nearly 3 decades of marriage. Or she could do something else entirely. The idea came to her slowly, like a dark tide rolling in. If Robert wanted to bring his mistress into their home, perhaps Catherine should prepare a proper welcome for them. Her lips curved into a smile that didn't reach her eyes as she began to plan. The next morning, Catherine called Martha, confirming her weekend visit with an enthusiasm that surprised even herself. "I'm looking forward to it," she told her mother-in-law. "I just need to prepare a few things before I leave on Friday." "You're too good to him," Martha replied, her voice warm with affection. "He doesn't deserve you, you know." "If only you knew how right you are," Catherine thought. "I'm making his favorite cake," she said instead, "to leave for the weekend." After hanging up, Catherine drove to the pharmacy across town, where no one would recognize her. She browsed the aisles casually before selecting a package of powerful sleep aids, the kind that knocked you out for hours, the kind that would ensure a deep, uninterrupted sleep. Back at home, she set up a small, discreet camera in the bedroom, positioned to capture the bed and most of the room. Another went in the kitchen, focused on the counter where she would leave the cake. Catherine tested both feeds on her phone, satisfied with the clear view each provided. On Friday morning, she baked the cake, a rich chocolate confection that had always been Robert's favorite. As the cake cooled, she crushed 12 sleep aid tablets into a fine powder and incorporated it into the chocolate frosting, stirring until no trace remained. Enough to ensure they would sleep deeply, but not enough to cause any real harm. Catherine wasn't looking to hurt them physically. She had something far more devastating in mind. She frosted the cake with meticulous care, leaving it prominently displayed on the kitchen counter with a note. "Thought you might enjoy this while I'm gone. Love, Hay." In her overnight bag, alongside her clothes and toiletries, Catherine packed a professional-grade hair clipper she had purchased specifically for this occasion. The kind used in salons, with multiple settings and attachments. It had cost a small fortune, but Catherine considered it an investment in justice. As she prepared to leave, Catherine heard Robert's key in the front door. She quickly shouldered her bag and fixed a smile on her face. "Heading out already?" Robert asked, kissing her cheek. He smelled of expensive cologne, another recent change she had noticed, but ignored. "Yes, your mother's expecting me for dinner," Catherine replied, studying his face. He looked eager, almost boyish in his excitement. How had she never noticed before? "Have a good time," he said, already reaching for his phone. Texting her, no doubt. Amber, the blonde whose hair had revealed everything. "I made your favorite cake," Catherine said, gesturing to the kitchen. "Just in case you get hungry this weekend." Robert glanced at the cake, then back at her. For a moment, something like guilt flashed across his features. "You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," Catherine assured him, squeezing his arm gently. "I want you to enjoy yourself while I'm gone." She left the house with one last glance at Robert, who was already loosening his tie, preparing for his weekend of betrayal. Little did he know that Catherine had orchestrated a betrayal of her own, one that would leave a much more permanent mark. In her car, Catherine checked the camera feeds on her phone one last time before driving away. Everything was set. Now, she just had to wait for night to fall and for her plan to unfold. The familiar roads leading to Martha's house seemed different somehow, illuminated by the knowledge that when she returned, nothing would ever be the same again. Darkness had settled over the neighborhood by the time Catherine pulled into the quiet parking lot of a 24-hour diner 3 miles from her home. She had told Martha she wasn't feeling well and needed to lie down, buying herself several hours of solitude in the guest bedroom. Now, with her mother-in-law believing she was asleep, Catherine sat in her car, watching the live feed from her home cameras on her phone. Robert had texted her earlier. "Miss you already. Having a quiet night with work files." The lie came so easily to him now, flowing through their marriage like poison. Catherine had responded with equal dishonesty, playing the role of the trusting wife one final time. At precisely 8:15 in the evening, headlights swept across her home's driveway. Catherine zoomed in on the kitchen camera as Robert hurried to the door, straightening his shirt and running a hand through his hair. The front door opened, and there she was, Amber Wilson, young, beautiful, with long blonde hair cascading past her shoulders, the same blonde hair Catherine had found in their car. "Your wife really gone for the whole weekend?" Amber's voice came through clearly on the camera's audio. She set her overnight bag on the floor, already making herself at home. "She's at my mother's until Sunday evening," Robert replied, pulling her into an embrace. "We have the place to ourselves." Catherine's fingers tightened around her phone as she watched them kiss passionately in the entryway of the home she had decorated, the home she had turned into a sanctuary for their marriage. They moved to the kitchen, where Amber spotted the chocolate cake. "She left you cake?" Amber laughed, running her finger through the frosting and tasting it. "That's sweet. Your wife's an idiot." Robert had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Don't call her that." "Why not? She has no idea what's happening right under her nose." Amber hopped onto the counter, legs swinging. "Are we having cake for dinner?" "I thought we could order in," Robert suggested, already reaching for his phone. "That Italian place you like delivers." "Cake first," Amber insisted, pulling Robert toward her. "I have a sweet tooth tonight." In the dim light of the diner parking lot, Catherine allowed herself a small smile. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. She watched as Robert cut 2 generous slices of cake, pouring glasses of milk to accompany the rich dessert. They ate at the kitchen island, feeding each other bites between kisses, laughing at private jokes, completely unaware of the invisible audience documenting their betrayal. Catherine ordered a coffee from the diner, settling in for the wait. The sleep aid would take effect within an hour, possibly sooner given the empty stomachs and the alcohol they were now adding to the mix. Robert had opened a bottle of red wine, pouring generous glasses for both of them. By 9:30, the effects of the medication became evident. Amber yawned repeatedly, her movements growing sluggish as she and Robert relocated to the living room sofa. Robert, too, was fighting to keep his eyes open, his speech slightly slurred, as he suggested they move to the bedroom. Catherine checked the time. She would need to act soon. The drive home would take 15 minutes, and she wanted to be certain they were deeply asleep before she entered the house. She paid for her coffee and returned to her car, watching the bedroom feed as Robert and Amber collapsed onto her marital bed, still fully clothed, succumbing to the powerful sedative. At 10:45, convinced they were both soundly asleep, Catherine drove home. Her hands were steady on the steering wheel, her mind focused on the task ahead. This wasn't a rash decision made in the heat of anger. This was calculated justice, planned with the precision of someone who had reached her breaking point. The house was quiet when she entered, using her key to unlock the front door. She moved silently through the familiar spaces, past the dirty cake plates in the kitchen, past the wine glasses on the coffee table, up the stairs to the master bedroom. The door was ajar, spilling a wedge of light into the hallway. Catherine pushed it open slowly, revealing Robert and Amber sprawled across the bed. Robert was snoring softly, one arm flung across Amber's waist. The young woman's blonde hair spread across Catherine's pillow like spilled gold. A final insult in a long list of betrayals. Catherine set her bag down quietly and removed the hair clipper. She had practiced using it on a wig she'd purchased, ensuring she knew exactly how to operate the device. Now, she plugged it into the wall outlet and approached the bed. Standing over Amber, Catherine felt an unexpected wave of pity. This young woman, however complicit in the affair, had also been deceived. Robert had likely fed her the same lies he'd told others before her, that his marriage was loveless, that Catherine didn't understand him, that he was planning to leave her soon. Catherine wondered how many times Robert had made these promises, how many women had believed them. The moment of compassion passed quickly, as Catherine remembered Amber's words, "Your wife's an idiot." With renewed resolve, she switched on the clipper, the soft hum barely audible over Robert's snoring. Working methodically, Catherine shaved a 2-inch wide strip from Amber's forehead to the crown of her head, revealing pale scalp beneath. The blonde hair fell away easily, gathering on the pillow and sheets. Catherine created an unmistakable path of baldness that couldn't be hidden with clever styling or a hat, a visible reminder of the night's events that would last for months. When she finished, Catherine gathered most of the fallen hair, leaving just enough on the sheets to make the situation clear when they awakened. She turned off the clipper and carefully placed it in Robert's right hand, curling his fingers around the handle. In the morning, when Amber discovered her ruined hair, there would be no doubt who was responsible. Catherine stepped back to survey her work. The camera captured everything, evidence she might need later, but also a record of this moment of reclaimed power. She felt no satisfaction, no joy in her revenge, only a hollow vindication that left her feeling empty rather than fulfilled. She packed the clipper in her bag, along with the hair she had collected, and made one final check of the room. Robert and Amber remained deeply unconscious, unaware of the drama that had unfolded, or the chaos that awaited them in the morning. Catherine removed the camera, ensuring it wouldn't be discovered, and quietly left the room. Downstairs, she retrieved the kitchen camera as well. Her presence in the house had left no trace, except, of course, for Amber's missing hair. Catherine let herself out the front door, locking it behind her. The neighborhood was silent, houses dark except for the occasional porch light. No one had witnessed her coming or going. In her car, Catherine sat for a moment, realizing she had just crossed a line she could never retreat behind again. Her marriage was over, had been over long before tonight, but now there was no possibility of reconciliation, no chance to pretend this hadn't happened. She had made her choice, just as Robert had made his. The drive back to Martha's house was surreal. Streetlights blurred past as Catherine contemplated the morning to come. Would Robert call her in a panic? Would he try to explain away what had happened? Or would he simply wait for her return on Sunday, pretending everything was normal? Whatever his response, Catherine knew she would face it with the same calm determination that had guided her actions tonight. She parked in Martha's driveway and quietly entered the house using the spare key her mother-in-law had given her years ago. The older woman had always treated Catherine like a daughter, often commenting that she was the best thing that had ever happened to Robert. What would Martha think when she learned the truth? Catherine pushed the thought aside as she crept up the stairs to the guest bedroom. Sleep didn't come easily. Catherine lay awake, replaying the events of the night, wondering if she had gone too far, or not far enough. By dawn, she had made another decision. Martha deserved to know the truth about her son. Not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but soon. Robert's betrayal extended beyond his wife to include his mother, who had been unwittingly used as an alibi for his infidelity. Morning light filtered through the curtains as Catherine finally drifted into a restless sleep. In her dreams, blonde hair fell like snow, covering everything in a silent, accusing blanket. She woke to the sound of her phone chiming, a text message notification. Heart pounding, Catherine reached for her phone. Was it Robert, discovering what she had done? But the message wasn't from her husband. It was from Martha, letting her know breakfast was ready whenever she felt up to joining her. Catherine closed her eyes, grateful for the temporary reprieve. In a few hours, her phone would indeed ring with news from home. But for now, she would have breakfast with her mother-in-law, maintaining the illusion of normalcy for just a little while longer. As she dressed for the day, Catherine caught her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at her seemed different somehow, older perhaps, but also stronger. Whoever she had been yesterday, today she was someone new, someone who had refused to be a victim, someone who had taken back control in the only way she knew how. Whether that made her brave or cruel, justified or vindictive, remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. There was no going back. Catherine sat across from Martha at the breakfast table, forcing herself to eat despite the knot of anxiety in her stomach. The older woman had prepared a spread of pancakes, bacon, and fresh fruit, comfort food that Catherine could barely taste. Martha chatted amiably about her garden club and an upcoming community fundraiser, oblivious to the turmoil behind her daughter-in-law's polite smile. "Are you sure you're feeling better?" Martha asked, refilling Catherine's coffee cup. "You look tired, dear." Catherine managed a small smile. "Just didn't sleep well. New bed and all." The lie came easily, though she felt a pang of guilt for deceiving Martha, who had always shown her nothing but kindness. "Robert called this morning," Martha mentioned casually, "checking to make sure you arrived safely. Such a thoughtful boy." Catherine nearly choked on her coffee. Robert had called his mother? That was unexpected. Had he already discovered what Catherine had done? Was he trying to confirm her whereabouts? "What time did he call?" Catherine asked, struggling to keep her voice even. "Around 7, I think. I told him you were still sleeping." Martha studied Catherine's face. "Is everything all right between you two?" Before Catherine could formulate a response, her phone vibrated against the table. Robert's name flashed on the screen. Catherine's heart hammered in her chest as she excused herself and stepped onto Martha's back porch to take the call. "Hello?" she answered, her voice deliberately sleepy. "Catherine." Robert's voice was tight, controlled. "How's Mom?" "She's fine. Made me pancakes for breakfast." Catherine leaned against the porch railing, waiting. "Is something wrong?" A beat of silence followed. "No, everything's fine. Just checking in." Another pause. "When are you coming home tomorrow?" "Around 5, probably. Why?" "No reason. Just wondering." Robert cleared his throat. "I should go. Got some work to finish up." "Okay. Love you." The words felt foreign on her tongue. "You too." The call ended. Catherine stared at the phone, puzzled. Robert sounded tense, but not panicked. Had Amber not woken up yet? Or had something else happened? She pulled up the saved recording from last night, fast-forwarding to the current time. The bedroom was empty, the bed unmade but abandoned. Unfortunately, without the cameras still in place, she had no way of knowing what was happening in real time. She returned to the breakfast table, where Martha was clearing the dishes. "Everything okay?" the older woman asked. "Yes, just Robert checking in." Catherine helped gather the remaining plates. "Martha, have you noticed anything different about Robert lately?" Martha paused, dishcloth in hand. "Different how?" Catherine hesitated. This wasn't how she had planned to have this conversation. "Working late more often. Distracted. I don't know. Maybe it's nothing." Martha dried a plate slowly, her expression thoughtful. "He reminds me of his father sometimes," she said finally. "Too much, if I'm being honest." "What do you mean?" "Edward was a good man in many ways. Faithful wasn't one of them." Martha set the plate down carefully. "I stayed, because that's what women of my generation did. But I've always hoped Robert would be better." Catherine sat down, stunned by the unexpected confession. "Martha, if there's something going on, Catherine, you don't have to protect him. Not with me." Martha's eyes, so like her son's, were clear and direct. "And you certainly don't have to stay." The moment hung between them, an opportunity for truth. But Catherine wasn't ready. Not yet. Not until she knew how her plan had unfolded. "Thank you," she said simply. "That means a lot." The rest of the day passed in a haze of small talk and busy work. Catherine helped Martha with her gardening, made lunch, and even accompanied her to the grocery store, all while checking her phone obsessively for any communication from Robert. Nothing came. By late afternoon, Catherine's nerves were frayed. She excused herself to take a bath, locking the bathroom door before replaying the bedroom footage from the previous night. She watched again as she placed the clipper in Robert's hand, creating the perfect tableau of guilt. Whatever was happening now, Robert would have a difficult time explaining away the evidence. That evening, as she and Martha watched a movie in the living room, Catherine's phone finally chimed with a text message. It was from an unknown number. "I know what you did. We need to talk." Catherine's blood ran cold. Amber. It had to be. But how had she gotten Catherine's number? From Robert's phone, most likely. Catherine considered her options, finally typing a simple response. "I don't know what you're talking about." The reply came quickly. "The cake, the cameras, my hair. Don't play dumb." So Amber had found the cameras. Catherine hadn't anticipated that. She had removed them, yes, but perhaps she'd missed something. A charging cable, a mounting bracket, some small detail that had given her away. Another text arrived. "I'm not telling Robert it was you. He thinks he did it while blacked out. But I want money for what you did to me." Catherine read the message twice, surprised. Amber was blackmailing her? And Robert believed he had cut Amber's hair himself. That was an unexpected twist, and possibly an advantageous one. "How much?" Catherine replied. "Buying time. $10,000. Cash. Or I tell Robert everything and go to the police." Catherine almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Go to the police? And say what? That her married lover's wife had given her an unfortunate haircut while she was sleeping in said wife's bed? Besides, Catherine had the video evidence of their affair. If anyone should be worried about exposure, it was Amber and Robert. "I'll need time to get that kind of money," Catherine wrote back. "Meet me on Monday." "Fine. The coffee shop on Elm, noon." A pause, then, "And don't think about backing out. I have pictures of the cameras you planted." Catherine set her phone down, mind racing. This was an unexpected complication, but perhaps it could work to her advantage. If Robert truly believed he had cut Amber's hair in some kind of sleep-induced state, that might be even better than her original plan. The guilt and confusion would eat at him, and Amber clearly hadn't told him the truth, at least not yet. "Bad news?" Martha asked, noticing Catherine's distraction. "Just work," Catherine lied. "A problem that needs fixing Monday." Later that night, alone in the guest room, Catherine revisited her plan. She had intended to return home Sunday evening, confront Robert with her knowledge of the affair, and use the video evidence as leverage in their inevitable divorce. But now, with Amber attempting to blackmail her and Robert apparently believing he was responsible for Amber's haircut, the situation had evolved. Catherine pulled out her laptop and accessed her bank account. She had her own savings, money from her salary that she had been putting aside for years. Robert knew about the account, but not its balance. She could withdraw $10,000 without raising any flags, though she had no intention of actually paying Amber. The meeting was simply an opportunity to turn the tables. Sunday morning arrived with another text from Amber. "Don't forget, Monday, noon, 10,000. Catherine showed Martha the guest room, thanking her for her hospitality. Martha hugged her tightly, whispering, "Remember what I said. You don't have to protect him." The drive home felt like a journey to another life. Catherine rehearsed what she would say to Robert, how she would act when she saw him. Surprise? Confusion? Anger? Should she let him confess or confront him immediately? When she pulled into the driveway, Robert's car was gone. Catherine entered the house cautiously, half expecting to find him waiting, but the rooms were empty. In the kitchen, the cake plate had been washed and put away. The wine glasses were gone from the coffee table. Even the bed had been stripped and remade with fresh linens. Robert had erased all evidence of his weekend with Amber. Catherine checked her phone. No messages, no missed calls. Where was he? Had he fled, unable to face her after what he believed he had done to Amber? Or was he simply avoiding the inevitable confrontation? She unpacked her overnight bag and took a shower, washing away the tension of the past 36 hours. As she dried her hair, she heard the front door open and close. Footsteps in the hallway. Robert was home. Catherine wrapped herself in her robe and took a deep breath. It was time for the next act in this twisted drama. She opened the bathroom door and stepped into the hallway, coming face to face with her husband. Robert looked terrible. His eyes were bloodshot, his normally neat hair disheveled. He jumped slightly when he saw her, guilt written across his features. "You're home early," he said, his voice hoarse. Traffic was light. Catherine studied him carefully. "You look awful. Rough weekend?" Robert ran a hand over his face. "Just didn't sleep well." "Work stress?" Catherine asked innocently. "Something like that." Robert couldn't meet her eyes. "I'm going to take a shower." "Robert!" Catherine's voice stopped him. "Is there something you want to tell me?" He turned slowly, his expression a mixture of fear and resignation. This was it, the moment of truth. Catherine waited, heart pounding for the confession she knew was coming. Robert began, then stopped. "I think I need help, Catherine. I did something. I can't explain it." Catherine crossed her arms, waiting. Would he confess to the affair? To cutting Amber's hair? Or perhaps to both? "I don't remember much from Friday night," he continued, words spilling out now. "I had some cake, maybe too much wine, but I woke up Saturday, and there was hair everywhere." He looked at her desperately. "I think I might be sleepwalking again, like when we were first married." Catherine remembered those episodes, rare occurrences where Robert would get up in the night, rearrange furniture, even cook meals, with no memory of it the next day. They had consulted a doctor back then, who had prescribed medication that seemed to resolve the issue, or so they had thought. "Hair?" Catherine asked, feigning confusion. "What do you mean?" Robert shook his head. "It doesn't matter. I cleaned it up, but I think I should see Dr. Williams again. Get back on that medication." He was hiding the affair, using his history of sleepwalking to explain the hair without revealing its source. It was clever, Catherine had to admit, and convenient. "I think that's a good idea," she said, deciding to play along for now. "We should make an appointment tomorrow." Relief washed over Robert's face. "Thank you for understanding." He moved toward her, arms outstretched for an embrace. Catherine stepped back. "I'm going to make some tea. You should get that shower." Hurt flashed in his eyes, quickly replaced by resignation. He nodded and continued down the hall to the bathroom. Alone in the kitchen, Catherine allowed herself a small, bitter smile. Robert was trapped in a web of his own making, one that was about to tighten significantly. Tomorrow, she would meet with Amber, and then, armed with all the evidence she needed, she would finally confront her husband with the truth. Monday morning dawned clear and crisp, the autumn air carrying a hint of the winter to come. Catherine dressed with particular care, selecting a charcoal gray pantsuit that projected confidence and authority. Her hair, styled in soft waves around her face, complemented her subtle makeup. She needed to look composed, in control, the exact opposite of how she felt. Robert had already left for work when she came downstairs. He'd been uncharacteristically quiet at breakfast, nursing a cup of black coffee and barely touching the toast she'd prepared. Before leaving, he'd confirmed that he'd made an appointment with Dr. Williams for the following week to discuss his sleepwalking episode. The lie hung between them, almost tangible in its audacity. "I'll be home late tonight," Catherine had told him. "Dinner with Jennifer." Another fabrication. She hadn't spoken to her college friend Jennifer in months. But Robert had simply nodded, clearly relieved to have the house to himself for a few more hours. Now, as Catherine gathered her purse and keys, she checked that everything was in place for her meeting with Amber. Her phone was fully charged, with the recorded video easily accessible. She had downloaded the footage to her laptop as well, saving multiple copies in various locations. The manila envelope in her purse contained printouts of Robert and Amber's email exchanges, concrete evidence of their affair. What it didn't contain was the $10,000 Amber had demanded. Catherine had no intention of paying for her silence. This meeting wasn't about negotiation. It was about regaining control of the narrative. She arrived at the coffee shop on Elm Street 20 minutes early, selecting a table in the far corner where their conversation wouldn't be overheard. The cafe was moderately busy with the lunch crowd, providing enough ambient noise for privacy without being overcrowded. At precisely 12 o'clock, the door opened, and Catherine immediately recognized Amber from the video footage. In person, the young woman seemed smaller somehow, less confident than she had appeared in Robert's arms. Her once luxurious blonde hair was now hidden beneath a black beanie pulled low over her forehead, but nothing could disguise the haunted look in her eyes or the tension in her shoulders as she scanned the room. Catherine raised her hand slightly, catching Amber's attention. The younger woman approached cautiously, sliding into the chair opposite Catherine without removing her hat. "You came," Amber said, her voice brittle with barely contained anger. "Where's my money?" Catherine studied her, noting the dark circles under her eyes and the way her hands trembled slightly as she set her phone on the table. "No, hello? No coffee first? I'm not here to socialize with the woman who drugged me and cut off my hair," Amber hissed, leaning forward. "I'm here for what you owe me." "I don't owe you anything, Amber." Catherine's voice remained calm, controlled. "In fact, I'd argue it's the other way around." Amber's eyes narrowed. "You destroyed my hair. Do you have any idea how much it's going to cost to fix this? Not to mention the emotional trauma." "Emotional trauma," Catherine interrupted, a cold laugh escaping her lips. "That's rich, coming from the woman who's been sleeping with my husband in my bed." "That's between me and Robert," Amber countered, though her gaze dropped momentarily. "This is about what you did to me." "You're right. Let's focus on what I did." Catherine opened her purse and removed her phone, turning it to show Amber the paused video. "I have everything, Amber. Your arrival at my house. The things you said about me. Your wife's an idiot. Remember that? The cake, the wine, everything up to and including the moment I gave you that stylish new haircut." Amber's face paled as she watched the silent footage. "You're bluffing. The video doesn't show you cutting my hair." Catherine swiped to the next clip. "Doesn't it?" The color drained completely from Amber's face as she watched herself lying unconscious, while Catherine methodically shaved a strip across her scalp. You're insane," she whispered. "No, just fed up." Catherine put the phone away. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear from our lives, Robert's and mine. No more calls, no more texts, no more meetings. You will tell Robert that you never want to see him again, and you will mean it." "And if I don't?" Amber's voice wavered despite her attempt at defiance. "Then this video goes to your employer, your family, your friends." Catherine tilted her head. "How do you think they'll react to seeing you in a married man's bed, insulting his wife before being drugged unconscious? Not to mention the potential legal implications." "That's blackmail," Amber said, though her tone lacked conviction. "Yes, it is," Catherine agreed pleasantly. "Ironic, isn't it?" Amber slumped in her chair, the fight visibly draining from her. "What about Robert? Are you sending it to him too?" "Robert and I will have our own conversation," Catherine said, "one that doesn't concern you anymore." For the first time, something like shame crossed Amber's features. "He told me you were separated," she said quietly. "Living together, but essentially divorced. He said you stayed for financial reasons." Catherine felt a twist of pain despite herself. It was the oldest excuse in the book, yet it still hurt to hear. "And you believed him. He was convincing." Amber touched her hat unconsciously. "Does he know it was you? Who did this?" "He thinks he did it himself. Sleepwalking." Amber gave a short, humorless laugh. "And he believed that? God, men will believe anything that protects their ego." A server approached their table, asking if they wanted to order. Catherine requested 2 coffees, ignoring Amber's surprised look. "I'm not staying," Amber protested once the server left. "Yes, you are," Catherine countered. "We're not finished." When the coffees arrived, Catherine pushed one toward Amber, who eyed it suspiciously. "It's not drugged," Catherine said dryly. "If I wanted to hurt you further, I wouldn't do it in a public place." Amber tentatively took a sip. "So, what happens now?" "Now you tell me how long it's been going on," Catherine said. "And don't lie. I've seen the emails going back 6 months. 8 months, Amber admitted. "We met at a work conference in February. He wasn't wearing his ring. Catherine nodded, absorbing the information. 8 months. While she had been planning their 27th anniversary celebration, Robert had been starting an affair. And our house? How many times? Amber shifted uncomfortably. A few. Mainly when you visited his mother. Did he take you anywhere else? Restaurants? Hotels? Why are you doing this to yourself? Amber asked, genuine confusion in her voice. Because I need to know exactly what I'm forgiving him for, Catherine replied, surprising herself with the words. Amber's eyes widened. You're staying with him? After everything? Catherine sipped her coffee, considering the question. Was she staying? The plan had been confrontation, divorce, a clean break. But sitting here, facing the physical manifestation of Robert's betrayal, Catherine found herself re-evaluating. That's between me and Robert, she said, finally, echoing Amber's earlier words. The important thing is that your relationship with him is over. Because you say so? A flash of the earlier defiance returned to Amber's eyes. Because you're going to end it, Catherine corrected her. Today, you're going to tell him that you found the cameras, that you know his wife discovered everything, that it's over. And if I tell him what you did instead, then the video goes public, Catherine said simply, and we all lose. Amber stared into her coffee cup, silent for a long moment. I was falling in love with him, she said finally, her voice small. No, you weren't, Catherine replied, not unkindly. You were falling in love with the idea of him, the version he presented to you. Trust me, that man doesn't exist. Amber looked up, meeting Catherine's gaze directly for the first time. Did he ever? Exist, I mean. The man you married. The question caught Catherine off guard. Had there ever been a time when Robert was truly the man she thought he was? Or had she been living with an illusion for 27 years? I thought so, she answered honestly. But now I'm not sure. Something passed between the two women then. A moment of shared understanding that transcended their adversarial positions. They had both been deceived by the same man, albeit in different ways. I'll end it, Amber said finally. Not for you. For me. She touched her hidden hair again. What happened? It's a wake-up call. I deserve better than being someone's secret. Yes, you do, Catherine agreed. We both do. Amber stood, leaving her coffee mostly untouched. I never meant to hurt you, she said. I know that doesn't mean much now, but it's true. I never thought of you as a real person with feelings. You were just an obstacle, the wife. And now? Now I know better. Amber adjusted her hat. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Catherine nodded, accepting the apology for what it was. Imperfect, but genuine. If you're ever tempted to call him again, remember the video. Remember that I won't hesitate to use it. I won't call, Amber assured her. I'm done being someone's mistake. As Amber walked away, Catherine felt an unexpected weight lift from her shoulders. The confrontation she had been dreading had somehow left her feeling lighter, more certain of her next steps. She paid for the coffees and left the cafe, her mind already turning to the conversation that awaited her at home. Robert called as she was driving back to the house. Catherine let it go to voicemail, not yet ready to hear his voice. When she checked the message at a stoplight, his panicked tone told her everything she needed to know. Catherine, I need to talk to you. Something's happened. Please call me when you get this. Amber had kept her word. She had ended things with Robert, perhaps telling him exactly what Catherine had suggested. Now Robert was scrambling, trying to get ahead of the situation before Catherine discovered the truth. Instead of going home, Catherine drove to Martha's house. Her mother-in-law answered the door with a look of surprise that quickly turned to concern when she saw Catherine's expression. I need to talk to you, Catherine said. About Robert. Martha ushered her inside without question, leading her to the kitchen table where they had shared breakfast just the day before. Tell me, she said simply. And Catherine did. She told Martha everything. The blonde hair in the car, the emails she had discovered, the elaborate plan she had executed to expose the affair. She even showed her the video, fast-forwarding through the more intimate moments out of respect for everyone involved. Martha listened without interruption, her face growing increasingly grave. When Catherine finished, the older woman reached across the table and took her hands. "I always feared he was too much like his father," Martha said, her voice thick with disappointment. "But I had hoped." "I know," Catherine said gently. "So did I." "What will you do now?" Martha asked. Catherine had been asking herself the same question all day. The answer came to her with surprising clarity. "I'm going to give him a choice." Back in her car, Catherine finally returned Robert's call. He answered on the first ring. "Catherine, where are you? We need to talk." "Yes, we do," she agreed calmly. "I'll be home in 20 minutes. "Catherine, whatever you've heard—" "20 minutes, Robert," she repeated, then ended the call. As she drove home for what might be the last time as Robert's wife, Catherine felt strangely at peace. The anger and hurt were still there, buried beneath the surface, but they no longer controlled her. She had taken back her power, not through revenge, but through truth. Whatever happened next would be on her terms. The house came into view, Robert's car parked in the driveway. Catherine pulled in beside it, took a deep breath, and stepped out into the fading afternoon light. It was time for the final act. Robert was waiting in the living room, pacing the length of the oriental rug they had purchased together on their 20th anniversary trip to Turkey. When Catherine entered, he froze mid-step, his face a mask of anxiety and guilt. He had changed from his work clothes into jeans and a sweater, as if preparing for a long, difficult evening ahead. "Catherine," he began, voice strained with forced composure, "we need to talk about something." She set her purse down carefully on the entryway table, taking her time to remove her coat and hang it in the closet. Each movement was deliberate, buying her precious seconds to gather her thoughts. "Yes," she agreed finally, moving to sit in the armchair opposite the sofa. "We do." Robert remained standing, hands clasped before him like a penitent schoolboy. "I don't know how to say this, but I think someone has been in our house." Catherine raised an eyebrow. "Someone has been in our house?" "Yes, when you were at my mother's." Robert ran a hand through his hair, disturbing its careful styling. "I think we were watched." "Watched?" Catherine repeated, her tone neutral. "What makes you think that?" "I found cameras, small ones, in the bedroom and kitchen." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Someone was recording us." "Us?" Catherine tilted her head. "Or you and Amber." The color drained from Robert's face. His mouth opened and closed several times before he managed to speak. "You know." "I know," Catherine confirmed, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions threatening to break free. "I know everything, Robert." He sank onto the sofa, shoulders slumping in defeat. "How long have you known? Does it matter? A week? A day? The point is, I know now." Catherine folded her hands in her lap to keep them from shaking. 8 months, Robert. 8 months of lies. Robert's head snapped up. "She told you that? Amber?" "Yes. We had quite an enlightening conversation today." Catherine held his gaze. "After she tried to blackmail me." Confusion clouded his features. "Blackmail you? For what?" "For cutting her hair." Catherine saw no reason to hide the truth any longer. "I placed the cameras, Robert. I made the cake with the sleeping pills. I came back while you were both unconscious and gave Amber her new style. Then I put the clippers in your hand so you'd think you did it." Robert stared at her in disbelief. "You? That was you? But why would you?" "Why?" Catherine's composure cracked slightly, indignation seeping into her voice. "You bring your mistress into our home, into our bed, and you ask me why? Because you betrayed me in the most intimate way possible. Because she called me an idiot while eating cake in my kitchen. Because after 27 years of marriage, you couldn't even respect me enough to have your affair in a hotel room like a normal cheater." "I never meant to hurt you," Robert said, the words hollow and insufficient. "Of course you did," Catherine countered. "Maybe not consciously, but every lie, every late night, Every weekend you sent me to your mother's so you could be with her. Those were all choices you made, knowing they would hurt me if I ever found out." Robert buried his face in his hands. "I don't know what to say." "Start with the truth," Catherine suggested. For once, he looked up, eyes red-rimmed. "The truth? The truth is, I was selfish. Weak. Amber made me feel young again. Desired. It wasn't about you." "Don't," Catherine interrupted sharply. "Don't give me the midlife crisis excuse. This isn't about what I did or didn't do. This is about your choices." "You're right," Robert admitted, seeming to age before her eyes. "I have no excuses, only regrets." Catherine studied him. This man she had loved for nearly 3 decades. The father of their now-grown children. The partner she had built a life with. In this moment, he seemed like a stranger. "What happens now?" Robert asked quietly. Are we? "That depends," Catherine said, "on whether you're finally ready to be honest, with me and with yourself." "I'll do anything," he promised quickly. "Counseling, therapy, whatever you want. I'll never see her again. I swear." "She already ended things," Catherine informed him. "Rather definitively, from the sound of your voicemail." Robert nodded miserably. "She said she found the cameras, that she knew you knew everything, that she couldn't be part of this anymore." "Smart girl," Catherine remarked. "Smarter than I was at her age." "What does that mean?" Catherine sighed, feeling suddenly tired. "It means I stayed with a man who didn't deserve me once before. I'm not sure I want to make the same mistake twice." "What are you saying?" Alarm sharpened Robert's voice. "Catherine, please, we can work through this." "Can we?" she asked. "Because this isn't just about Amber. Your mother told me about your father, about his habits." Robert flinched as if struck. "My father? What does he have to do with this?" "Everything," Catherine said softly. "She stayed, because that's what women of her generation did. But she hoped you would be better. We both did." "I'm not my father," Robert protested weakly. "Aren't you?" Catherine challenged. "How many were there before Amber, Robert? How many affairs have I forgiven without even knowing about them?" He looked away, unable to meet her eyes. The silence that followed was answer enough. "That's what I thought," Catherine said, a deep sadness settling in her chest. "Your mother knows, by the way. I told her everything this afternoon." Robert's head snapped up, genuine horror in his expression. "You told my mother?" She deserved to know why her son was using her as an alibi for his affair. Catherine's tone was unapologetic. "She's disappointed, but not surprised, which says more about your pattern of behavior than I ever could." "I can't believe you involved my mother in this," Robert said, anger finally breaking through his remorse. "I can't believe you involved your mother in this," Catherine countered. "Every time you sent me to her house so you could be with Amber, you made her complicit in your lies. She deserves better than that. We both do." Robert fell silent again, the brief flare of indignation extinguished by the truth of her words. "So this is it? 27 years? Just over?" Catherine considered the question carefully. Was their marriage over? Could anything salvage what had been broken? Or had it been broken for longer than she realized? The cracks simply hidden beneath the veneer of routine and comfort? "I don't know," she admitted finally. "What I do know is that I can't go back to the way things were, pretending everything is fine while you live a double life." "I won't," Robert promised fervently. "Never again. I'll be completely transparent. You can have access to my phone, my email, everything. That's not a marriage, Robert. That's a prison for both of us." Catherine shook her head. "I don't want to be your jailer, checking your messages and tracking your movements. That's not who I am." "Then what do you want?" he asked, desperation edging his voice. "I want—" Catherine paused, realizing she hadn't fully articulated this even to herself. "I want space. Time to think about what I want for the rest of my life, whether that includes you or not." "Space," Robert repeated, as if testing the word. "You're leaving me?" "I'm leaving this house," Catherine clarified. "Martha has invited me to stay with her for a while. Robert's face contorted in disbelief. My mother invited you to stay with her? After everything you did to Amber? Your mother understands what it means to be betrayed by a Morgan man, Catherine said simply. We have that in common now. The full weight of the situation seemed to finally register with Robert. His wife was leaving. His mother had sided with her. His mistress had ended their affair. In the span of a single day, the carefully constructed facades of his life had crumbled, leaving him alone amidst the ruins. When? He asked, his voice barely audible. Tonight. I've already packed a bag. Catherine hadn't actually done this yet, but the decision had crystallized during their conversation. I'll come back for the rest of my things later. Catherine, please. Robert moved to kneel before her chair, reaching for her hands. Don't do this. Give me a chance to make it right. She allowed him to take her hands, noting how cold his felt against her skin. I'm not making any permanent decisions tonight, she said gently. But I need this, Robert. I need to remember who I am outside of this marriage. I need to decide if what we have, what's left of it, is worth fighting for. Tears filled his eyes, spilling down his cheeks. I love you, he whispered. I know I haven't shown it, but I do. Catherine felt her own eyes well up. Despite everything, despite the anger and betrayal, a part of her still loved him too. Not the man he had become, perhaps, but the man she had married, the man she had believed in for so long. I know, she said softly, but sometimes love isn't enough. She gently extracted her hands from his grasp and stood. Robert remained kneeling, a broken figure on the carpet they had chosen together in happier times. Catherine moved through the house with purpose, climbing the stairs to their bedroom, where she methodically packed essentials for an extended stay. Clothes, toiletries, medications, the framed photo of her parents from her nightstand. Robert didn't follow her, remaining downstairs where she had left him. When she descended 30 minutes later, wheeling a small suitcase, he was sitting on the sofa, staring blankly at the wall. He looked up as she approached, eyes red and swollen. How long? He asked, his voice rough. I don't know, Catherine answered truthfully. As long as it takes. And if I get help? See someone about why I do these things? A desperate hope colored his words. That would be a good start, Catherine acknowledged. But you need to do it for yourself, not for me. Not to save our marriage. Robert nodded slowly, seeming to absorb the wisdom of her words. Will you at least call? Let me know you're okay? I will, she promised. And we'll talk, eventually, when I'm ready. She moved toward the door, pausing with her hand on the knob. I've transferred half of our savings to my personal account, she informed him. Just so you know. Take whatever you need, Robert said. It's as much yours as mine. Catherine nodded, appreciating this small gesture of fairness amid the wreckage. Goodbye, Robert. Goodbye, Catherine. She stepped outside into the cool evening air, closing the door softly behind her. The weight that had been pressing on her chest for days, perhaps longer than she realized, began to lift as she loaded her suitcase into the trunk of her car. As she drove away from the house she had called home for so many years, Catherine felt neither triumph nor despair. Instead, a curious sense of possibility settled over her. For the first time in decades, her future was unwritten, undefined by her role as Robert's wife. Martha was waiting on the porch when Catherine arrived, a warm light glowing behind her in the growing dusk. The older woman embraced her without words, leading her inside where a guest room had been prepared and a pot of tea waited on the kitchen table. How did he take it? Martha asked as they settled into chairs across from each other, just as they had that morning. About as well as could be expected, Catherine replied, accepting a steaming cup. He's devastated, confused, angry that I told you. Martha shook her head. He has no right to be angry with anyone but himself. I know, but understanding that will take time. Catherine sipped her tea, the familiar comfort of chamomile washing over her. I told him I need space, time to think. And do you? Need time? Martha studied her over the rim of her cup. Or, have you already decided? Catherine considered the question carefully. I honestly don't know. Part of me wants to believe he can change, that we can rebuild something from the ashes. Another part knows that might be wishful thinking. Whatever you decide, Martha said, reaching across to squeeze Catherine's hand. You'll always have a place here, with me. Thank you, Catherine whispered, emotion tightening her throat. That night, in the quiet of Martha's guest room, Catherine lay awake watching moonlight pattern the ceiling. Her phone remained silent. No desperate texts or calls from Robert. Perhaps he was finally respecting her boundaries. Or perhaps he simply had nothing left to say. Catherine thought about Amber, wondering if the young woman was also lying awake tonight, contemplating the choices that had led her to this point. She hoped Amber would find someone who valued her enough to be honest, who wouldn't make her a secret or a source of shame. As for Robert, Catherine couldn't predict his path. Would he seek help, genuinely try to understand his destructive patterns? Or would he eventually find another Amber, repeating the cycle his father had established before him? And what about herself? The question lingered as sleep finally began to claim her. Who was Catherine Morgan without Robert? Who could she become, freed from the shadows of his deception? For the first time in longer than she could remember, the answer felt full of promise rather than fear. Whatever came next, reconciliation or divorce, forgiveness or final separation, she would face it on her own terms, with her dignity intact and her eyes wide open. The future stretched before her, uncharted but bright with possibility. As she drifted into sleep, Catherine realized that in seeking revenge, she had inadvertently found something far more valuable: herself. In the morning, she would wake to a new reality, one she had chosen rather than merely accepted. One where her worth wasn't determined by Robert's fidelity or Martha's solidarity, but by her own strength and resilience. The revenge she had planned had been sweet, but the liberation that followed was sweeter still. The cake, the cameras, the clipper, they had been tools not just of retribution, but of revelation. Through them, Catherine had discovered truths about Robert, about Amber, about marriage itself. But most importantly, she had rediscovered a truth about herself, that she was stronger than she knew, braver than she believed, and more deserving of honesty than she had allowed herself to demand. Whatever tomorrow brought, that knowledge would remain. And for now, for tonight, it was enough. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And drop a comment below. What city are you watching from? And if your heart tells you to, feel free to leave me a tip on Buy Me a Coffee. Just check the first pinned comment. Thanks for keeping me company and for the coffee, and I'll see you in the next story.